Aid. I've been fascinated in use of technology in the developing world for a long time, so I'm delighted to be working in the development sector. I've been at Christian Aid for about 8 years. 4 of those I've been responsible for IT service delivery and the infrastructure for all of our offices outside the UK. I manage a team of 5 people, all of whom are distributed outside of the UK in developing world countries. The major challenges that I face on a regular basis are we pay an awful lot of money for internet connections in some locations, the sorts of prices that you would no longer have to pay in the developed world. And we also see lots of issues with power supplies in many of the locations where we're based. And I'm motivated by a variety of things. I love the challenges that I face and managing to get things done. And I love working with my team who work in different environments and cultures, and really being able to put technical skills to work on some of the greatest challenges that we face.
Great. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to tell us about the solution. Would you mind just giving us a bit of a background about Christian Aid itself?
Sure. So Christian Aid is 70 years old this year. And we were set up shortly after the Second World War with 3 main aims: to expose the scandal of poverty, to help practical ways to root it out from the world, and to challenge and change the structures and systems that favour the rich and powerful over the poor and marginalised. And how do we do those things? We work with local partners in 37 different countries around the world who deliver development work in their countries. More specifically, Christian Aid has 29 offices outside of the UK, including some interesting and challenging places such as South Sudan and the DRC. We also do some humanitarian work. Examples of that recently are the earthquake in Nepal and the Ebola crisis in West Africa.
Great. So in terms of your previous infrastructure, would you mind talking a little bit about that and really what it looked like and perhaps some of the issues that you were dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So in the past, we had a Cisco ASA based VPN with a 5505 in each of our offices doing the firewalling and providing a VPN connection. And yeah, we faced a number of challenges with this. Firstly, when we needed to deploy them, it was really quite stressful. That they often needed to be configured on site, and getting them configured was quite difficult for anybody that was involved in it. So the typical scenario would be I would be on the end of the phone, or one of my team would be on the end of the phone, and a local person would be having to connect to that device using an SSH client and type in some long and complicated command strings, and this was made doubly stressful because power might suddenly be interrupted, and really that was a big headache for us. And then one of the main challenges that we'd found in almost all of our offices would be staff would be coming to us and saying our connection's really slow, we're not able to do the work that we need to do on the internet, and we really didn't have any answers to why that connection would be slow. Sometimes we felt we had ample bandwidth in the location, and we really had no straight answers to what the problem was.
Yeah, I think some of those challenges will ring very true and to everyone on the line here.
Also, we had a great diversity in our wireless. We were using lots of different brands of Wi-Fi hardware, quite often consumer products that had been bought locally. And we didn't really have a single way of securing the network, and we didn't have a single set of instructions that people could consult to know how to get onto a network when they were visiting an office.
Yeah. So in terms of, once you had kind of decided enough is enough, you need a new solution, what sort of requirements did you set out for the infrastructure that you wanted, ideal state?
I mean, the main thing that we absolutely knew we really needed was some insight into how the connections are being used. We'd already done a little bit of work on trying to roll out NetFlow applications that would be able to identify top talkers on the network and what sort of traffic they were consuming. So we absolutely knew that we needed that in order that we could get the actual use controllable and make sure that we were prioritizing work-related things. We knew that we wanted stuff that was very easy to get installed and configured. That as I said, that had often been quite a challenge for us, but also by having simple interfaces, there would be a lower amount of training. We'd be less reliant on one or two people within the team. And we wanted the reports that were produced from this to be not to require too much work, so that we could share it with non-technical members of staff who really we wanted to empower them in making decisions around various actions we might take around their networks.
Great. So in terms of Cisco Meraki solution, I mean, what are the sorts of things that attracted you to it and that, checked some of the boxes in terms of the requirements that you were looking for?
I mean, the main thing was the fact that we could manage it centrally across all of our networks with a intuitive and clean interface. The deployment was definitely the fact that you could plug the devices in and they would get their own deployment as soon as they got a connection to the internet. Was very attractive to us, because it would reduce the amount of time that we'd spend in headquarters configuring devices before sending them out, and also we'd be able to do the whole configuration of all of our network much more rapidly. Functionally, we were very attracted to Meraki because we found it very quick to get the information that we needed, and it was already presented in a very attractive way. So we could share those reports with non-technical staff, without really having to rewrite them, which we found with some other vendors' products. And also, I think one thing that we foresee from this was that would enable the non-technical staff that were exposed to this to quite quickly know what kind of questions we'd be able to answer, because we're trying to help our staff overseas who are focused on development, not technology, and this was something that would enable them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in terms of the deployment itself then, would you mind talking a little bit about typical kind of process that you go through to deploy Meraki hardware, a new site perhaps that you're getting live?
Sure. So we started off, possibly as quite a few people coming to this this webinar today, my follow-up, we started off getting a free access point, and we added it to our network in London, and which gave us our first sight of the dashboard and an ability to see how things worked. And very quickly we identified that this was a solution that we really wanted to put into use, and then we tried out some of the equipment to do a proof of concept. So we were initially focused on VPN, expanding our secure network to offices overseas. Yeah. So I mean, how do we set up the equipment before we ship it? I mean, typically we'll start the network configuration before we even have bought the equipment. We'll allocate the network a subnet, and we will we will use one of the existing networks as a template to get us started and provide most of the configuration, and then really it's just a matter of entering the serial numbers of the devices that we're shipping out. We do a little bit of testing before we ship them out, because the devices are going to locations where it's often the biggest challenge is actually getting the device to the location. So we want to be absolutely sure everything's working okay. And then we'll send it out and give someone some very basic instructions about how to disconnect the existing equipment and plug the Meraki in. And generally our experience is that once people have done that, they can start using it straight away. It's a 10-minute job, if that. Yeah, so we managed to roll out to 29 offices around the world over a 6-month period, and it took, if we hadn't faced the challenges that are unique to an organization that works, in so many different locations, I imagine we would have done it within 6 weeks.
Yeah. Can you, ever imagine delivering that kind of speed of deployment using traditional architectures?
I think that would be really challenging. I think that we would definitely have struggled to get things out. I had been involved in the previous rollout of our previous network, and it took about 2 years. So this was considerably faster.
Great. So in terms of the benefits now that you do have it installed at a few locations, what sort of benefits are you seeing from the network?
Sure. So we're seeing quite a lot of benefits, some of which we anticipate and some of which have been a bit of a surprise. I think a key aspect of this for me is that all members of my team now have access to the systems wherever they are, whether they're in their home office, whether they're traveling to a field office, or in some cases from when they're at home. And previous systems that we'd used, they weren't easily accessible if you were outside of the corporate network. So it's a huge benefit. It's very easy to access the information, and that's both at a practical level, and it's easy to digest and understand the information that you're seeing at a big level of detail, and you can see trends on a live basis that enable us to see how different offices are using the internet, or even how different individuals or different devices within that office make use of the internet. Which is extremely helpful when it comes to troubleshooting. The fact that we didn't have to build a system ourselves to guarantee a level of redundancy and reliability, that's all taken care of by virtue of the fact that it's in the cloud and hosted by Cisco Meraki. And we know in our experience that many of our sites will cease working due to power cuts or other interruptions to the internet, and in this case we're really at a very low risk of not being able to manage most of our networks because one network has failed. I love the fact that the firmware and the interface upgrades are out of our hands. We don't have to worry about them. It really frees up my team's time and other members of the IT team in London to focus on other areas of work that are more related to the aims and goals of Christian Aid.
Great. You mentioned earlier on about all of your team being able to access the dashboard even at home. Do you take or do you use the Meraki mobile app at all?
Yes, I use it. I use it very frequently, just to if I want to answer a question about what's happening in a particular network in a meeting, I can pull my phone out of my pocket and answer the question right there and then, and show people graphs, and that's I very rarely have to tell people that I will get back to them with that information later. I can, it really enables me as a manager to answer those questions straight away.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So in terms of some of the network results that you've achieved as a part of the deployment, do you mind just talking to those a little bit?
Sure, we got some amazing insights into how we were using bandwidth in different offices, and I think the most interesting part of that is that most of the assumptions that we'd been making in the past were proven to be wrong. So we suspected that staff in some locations were really misusing connections. They were downloading movies, or Skype was eating up all of the bandwidth. And when we after running Meraki for a few weeks in each location, we quickly realized that wasn't the case at all. And actually, most of our problems were related to the quantity of the volume of email traffic related to work. And that's really helped us address things in a more focused way than we would have been able to in the past. So that's led us to implement traffic shaping strategy that restricts the amount of bandwidth that's used by email, so that other things that people need to do are able to get a look in on the bandwidth. And we can also see if there are particular people that are consuming lots of bandwidth, and we can go directly to them and give them some advice on how they may use it better. Other things that we learn, I mean, every time I log into the Meraki dashboard, I learn something new about the way our users work and how they use internet connections. We weren't aware of the number of mobile devices that came into our offices with staff. We weren't aware of the level of sophistication that they were operating at in their sort of personal day-to-day lives. And we now know, without having to do a survey, that staff are using smartphones quite extensively, and we're able to make use of those smartphones that are already in people's hands to start doing different kinds of work.
One of the most impressive things for me, I know when we've spoken in the past, is your ability as an organization to react to changes and events that happen globally. I think earlier on you mentioned about the Ebola crisis. Would you mind just talking about that as just kind of a tidbit in terms of how you were able to react so quickly and provide a network, at a crisis that really came out of nowhere?
Sure. So we already had an office in Freetown in Sierra Leone, so we already had people on the ground. And at the point that the Ebola crisis started, we'd already actually rolled out our standard network equipment to that office, and that was Meraki equipment, which was good because when it first happened, we didn't know how easy or difficult it would be to get equipment into the country. We received a grant through our membership of NetHope to enable us to share the resources that we had with other people that were responding to the crisis. We have a VSAT connection in Freetown, which gives us the internet connection back into Europe, and this is something that not all agencies may have. So we increased our bandwidth funded through the NetHope grant, and we implemented a couple of external access points on our office in Freetown, which enabled us to share our bandwidth with other responders in Sierra Leone and working in Freetown. And they were able to get online, do their work without having to ask us permission. We shared the credentials to log on to the network through NetHope. So a number of other organisations made use of those facilities to do their work.
Yeah.
So we managed to get that up and rolling and out there within a couple of weeks, which in the past, I don't think we would have been able to even offer that facility at all. We wouldn't have had the flexibility that we've now got.
Yeah, that's a really powerful story. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So in terms of the future then, do you have any plans, ICT in general or
Mhm.
specific to Meraki?
Yeah, so we're looking at the Z1 security appliance. It's very small and compact, and it includes almost all of the Meraki functionality in a single box. And what we're thinking about doing with that is making it part of a kit for emergency response, where we would be setting up an office, and basically somebody could throw one of these into their bag and travel to the country, and as soon as they've found an internet connection, they're able to share it. They're able via Wi-Fi with other people working there. I'm very excited about the potential for that. We're also increasingly using the Meraki mobile device management to manage our Windows computers, as well as phones and tablets used by staff. We've found that the functionality in the mobile device management for Windows has been particularly strong. We've got some plans around. We saw so much success with standardizing our wireless networks, that we're now very keen on doing the same thing with the rest of our network infrastructure. So we'll have a standard. We already have a standard firewall. That's a Meraki firewall. We have standard Wi-Fi, but we also want to standardize on our switching, and also the way that we do backup power supplies in each office. We're in the process right now of standardizing using 802.1x or radius authentication for all Christian Aid owned equipment in all of our offices worldwide. And we're looking at setting up some form of cloud radius server to service that, because we don't have radius servers in all of our offices, and really we want to minimize the amount of equipment we have running in our offices. And this will enable us to have a single secured SSID across all of our offices worldwide, so people who are traveling never have to ask, how do I connect? How can I connect? It will all just work. It will all just work automatically. I'm seeing a trend in all of our offices worldwide, where better and cheaper internet connections are becoming available in most locations where we work. And I think that's going to change the way we work and change some of the things that we're able to do. And even though there's going to be more bandwidth available, I think we're still going to need to manage that. The demand is only going to increase from both a work side of things, as well as what staff expect to be able to do on a personal level. So I think there are some really interesting things there. Overall, I really want to reduce the amount of time that my team and I spend dealing with day-to-day surprise issues, so that we can increase our focus on adding value to the work that Christian Aid does.
Great. Well, thanks for the overview there. So let's dive straight into the demonstration of the dashboard. So let me flip over to my web browser. You've been signed out. Let me just sign back in again. Here we go. Apologies about that. I just had to sign back in.
Okay.
So this is the first view that we see. Thank you very much, first of all, Duncan, for allowing us to show this view. Just for your benefit, I am using a read-only dashboard, so I can't mess anything up.
That's a relief. Okay. So yeah, you can see some of the extent of our network globally. Actually, if you zoomed in certain areas, if you zoomed into Africa there, you'll see that we've got a few more sites scattered around. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can see that we're working across that central band of sub-Saharan Africa quite extensively, and this is the timing is impeccable here. We've got pretty much all sites online, which is really good news. Apart from one right in the centre of DRC, which actually the device itself is in transit to that office as we speak. So I'm expecting that to come online in a couple of weeks. So yeah, if you'd like to zoom in on Sierra Leone, I think that's an interesting network to look at.
So you can zoom into the map here, but I can also search for the networks that Christian Aid have deployed worldwide in this menu on the right-hand side. So what is the network called that you have at Sierra Leone?
It's if you type in Freetown, it'll come up.
So this is one of the things, if you do have a large number of networks, I mean, you have this search facility, which is effectively real-time search. So it's populated that one. I can click straight into it and take me off to show me more information.
Okay, so here we can see the all the clients in the network in Freetown. I'm able to sort that by different things. So typically I'll sort by the usage. And be able to see which of the devices which are consuming the most bandwidth in the last day. We've got somebody's iPhone there. It looks like they probably just downloaded the latest version of iOS, and we can quickly see in there if there are particular people that we might want to have a word with or takes an action about a certain kind of device. I also make extensive use of the pie chart to the right there. If you click on the more link under that, we can see what sort of things are people doing. I typically would sort it on the usage field there, and we can see that there's a bit of there's quite a lot of secure web. We've got a bit of CDN. There's quite a lot of Facebook happening in the last day. So here we can see sort of the profile of the office in terms of what the staff are doing, and I mean if we expand that out over a longer period of time, I think we might be able to see a bit of some trends there that
choose the last week.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of web use going on, and Windows Live, Hotmail, and Outlook. That includes Office 365. So we can see that most of the email traffic in this office will be within Office 365.
Yeah.
Which is really useful. So we'd use that if to set up some simple traffic shaping policies. If you would expand security appliance and then go into the traffic shaping, you able to?
Yep. So just to explain the UI for everyone's benefit. So at this Freetown location, because Christian Aid have the entire suite of Meraki devices deployed, so a security appliance, switches, and wireless. So from this view, we're actually within one click. In fact, from any view, we're always within one click away from all of the monitoring and configuration capabilities of all of the various device types that are deployed at that particular location. So if I hover above security appliance, I can now go to configure traffic and shaping for this location.
Yeah, so in here we put in the amount of bandwidth that we've got in each direction, and then we can, if you scroll down to the traffic shaping rules, I can show you how we decided that there were certain kinds of traffic that we wanted to give very high priority to. They tended to be real-time applications such as voice over IP and video conferencing, but also Citrix and remote desktop. And using the add button on there, we're able to very quickly add different applications using these categories, which was, it's extremely useful. And there are things in there such as under the VoIP and video conferencing, you can just add Skype. I mean, in the past, we didn't have any way of traffic shaping Skype at all, and in this, it's 2 clicks,
Yeah.
which is great. And in this traffic shaping, we're able to limit a certain amount of bandwidth to certain applications. So as you see, the second rule, we'd limited the email downloads to about a third of the overall bandwidth, maybe slightly less. And that's already had an impact. It's prevented everybody downloading large emails from preventing other things from happening.
Yeah. I mean, Duncan, compare this to, I mean, did you first of all have the functionality to do this in the previous infrastructure you were doing? And if you did, how easy was it to use in the previous versions and compared to now?
I spent quite a lot of time seeking the functionality in our ASAs, and I never really found a satisfactory way of doing it. It was just a bit too complicated. Though we had to think about traffic policing, traffic shaping, other things that really didn't find them to be particularly well documented. Whereas this was almost intuitive to set up.
Yeah.
A huge improvement.
Yeah. One thing I think one of my colleagues just highlighted the question that we've been asked, whether the traffic shaping here applies to download and upload. So you can actually specify here the download traffic limit and the upload, or if you use the simple button here and use a sliding scale, the whatever value you have there would be same for upload and download. Yeah, great, good question.
And that's really important for us because we often use connections where there is different bandwidth available in each direction. So what else can we look at in this network? I think if we go to the wireless, I can show how we've got a couple of different kinds of access points, and we set up multiple SSIDs in that network. If you go to so we've got 2 models of access point. I think they're MR16s and MR66s. So the MR66s are mounted outside of the office, and we didn't want to draw attention to ourselves, so we used the tag run dark, which enables them to run without their lights being on, so that they don't draw attention to themselves. Which
is that for security reasons or for bugs and things to not attract those?
Primarily for security reasons, but actually, yeah, it probably does prevent some insects clouding around the access point.
Yeah.
And also, we were able to use the tagging just to quickly, to very easily just give those the shared SSIDs to only run on the external access points and not on the internal ones. We didn't want our staff accidentally connecting to the shared SSID. If you switch into the SSID, if you switch into that, we can talk a little bit about the different networks that we set up. So we have a secure network that's authenticated through Radius.
Okay, and that's for staff?
That's for staff and Christian Aid owned equipment.
Okay.
That rollout of 802.1x with custom Radius was incredibly quick and easy to do. I don't think we would have even tried to do that with previous equipment. We have a guest network, which is for use by staff personal devices and visitors to the office. And that's shared with a pre-shared key, which we share with people when they ask for it. And that's using some of the inbuilt functionality of the Meraki network to prevent the different devices from talking to each other.
Yeah.
So people only really have access to the internet, and there's not much possibility of people interfering with other users devices. It's very secure, and that was just a turnkey. We switched it on and it worked straight away. And then we've got the third network, which was set up for this Ebola network sharing project that I spoke about a bit earlier. Having that in a separate network meant that we'd be able to monitor how it was used separately, and report back to our donors how effective it's been.
Yeah, I can see you've got on the guest and the HopeNet SSIDs splash page enabled. Is that something that you've configured yourself using the dashboard?
Yes, we configured it on the dashboard. It has our logo on it and our acceptable use policy, some acceptable use policy text, and yeah, people have to click through on that on a monthly basis in order to keep using the connection. I mean, we did consider having some means of authentication, but we like to keep things fairly simple.
Yeah. Did you use the wireless side for the H.1x configuration, or is it on the security appliance side?
It's on the wireless side.
Okay. Is it worthwhile just showing how easy that was?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah.
So if I go to wireless access control, and it was for secure. Here we go. So basically, it was very straightforward for you guys. So it looks like you've got association requirements, WPA2 Enterprise, and you can choose your own radius server here. And then once that option is selected, a little bit down here, all you need to do is type in your radius server's host, port, and secret, and that's it. It will then talk back to communicate with your own radius service to authenticate clients.
That's right. Yeah. So and that also enabled us to deploy the SSID settings to our computers using group policy, which was also something that worked very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to get everybody connected to the wireless network within a few hours, and most of the work was just telling people to connect their computer to the network and update the group policy on their computer, and then it just started working. Which
Perfect.
we'd never done before.
Yeah.
It was really it made our lives so much easier.
Yeah. We're just coming to the top of the hour, and I think it's a good point to kick off the Q&A session. So we're going to run a little bit over. For those of you who can stay a little bit longer, do appreciate the time. If you have to leave right at the top of the hour, won't take any offence to it, but we will hang on the line a few more minutes. Is that okay with you, Duncan?
That's absolutely fine, yes.
Great. So let me just take a look at some of the questions that have been coming in, and perhaps use the dashboard to answer some of the ones that have been coming in. Question here from Stian, hopefully I've pronounced that name correctly, asking if it's possible to have 802.11ac access point instead of an 802.11ap. So we do have both in the range. What will be sent out as a part of attending the webinar today will be an 802.11n access point. If you'd like to test out an AC access point, it's very easily done. We actually have a great evaluation program set up where you can actually try any one of the devices we have in the portfolio, absolutely free of charge on your own network. They take about 10-15 minutes to set up. If you require any assistance getting those set up, we have complimentary technical assistance available, and they are completely risk-free. So I mean, we really do believe in the proof being in the pudding, so we do want to give you the opportunity to test all of the equipment out firsthand, see if it is appropriate for yourself. If you did find for whatever reason it wasn't for you, you can simply pop it back in the box, send it back to us, and we actually pay for shipping both ways. So if you're interested in an AC access point and any other hardware that we have in the portfolio, if you go to meraki.cisco.com/eval, you can register for a free trial there. Yeah, great question. Just a couple of questions here on licensing. Question is around how many licenses would be needed to purchase, for example, 10 access points. So to basically, you need a license to run a Meraki hardware device. So say, for example, you were looking to purchase 10 Cisco Meraki APs, you'd also purchase 10 software licenses, and then you would have a choice of the duration of the software license that you would like, whether it's a 1-year license, a 3-year license, a 5-year license, a 7-year one, or 10 years if you so wish. Yeah, good question. Question here for you, Duncan, asking if you use the summary report functionality in terms of having that automated report sent to yourself and various other people in the organization.
Yes, we make extensive use of that. Maybe if you just switch to that so people can see it. It really gives us sort of the headline figures that you might want to see for different networks. Often in our monthly reports, we always report on the total devices and the average number of devices per day in each location, and that's extremely useful, and we're also able here to get a summary of that information that I was showing you before on the client's page about what are the different applications that are used and which devices have been using things. And also, yeah, we can see the distribution of different devices, so we know that every office has at least 1 or 2 Apple devices, which we'd never know, and we can see what different kinds of smart device people are bringing into the office.
Yeah. And in terms of actually sharing this report, so you can schedule a report by email to be sent out periodically, or on one-off occasions by using just the email report. One other thing which I think is worthwhile pointing out and can sometimes feel obvious once you've gone ahead and deployed and started using Meraki is that all of this monitoring information and the format that it's in represented to yourself is completely out of the box. So Duncan, as a kind of a reference point, would you mind just talking a little bit about what sort of configuration you had to do to get this monitoring information?
We didn't have to do any monitoring. We didn't have to do any configuration at all.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, that's a really.
We just had to set up the networks.
Yeah. Sorry, it sounded like a bit of an obvious question. But in terms of if you were to maybe try to imagine getting this kind of information from previous solutions that you've worked with, how simple and straightforward would that be?
I set up our monitoring system that we were using in the previous with the previous stuff, and it took me about 2 years to get that finely tuned to the point where we got something that wasn't even up to the standards of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, very happy about that.
Yeah.
Although we still do make use of the of my 2 years hard work monitoring other things. Yeah.
Some questions about whether the slides and recording will be available afterwards. Yes, we are recording the webinar, and the slide deck will be available afterwards. So if you go to our website in a few days' time, meraki.cisco.com/webinars, and navigate your way to the bottom of the page, there's a section called Previous Webinars, and this will appear there. Yeah, great question. We have a question here asking about what happens, in the event internet connection goes down. So earlier on, I was talking about some of the redundancies we have built in on the data center side. We do have some redundancies built into the hardware. So all of our hardware is really designed specifically to be managed via the cloud. So we have extra memory and CPU crammed into all of our hardware such that any time that Duncan actually makes a configuration setting change using the dashboard, this gets actually filtered down to the devices at their respective locations. So if connection to the cloud was ever lost, the local area network still works, but it still works exactly how they were last configured to do so. So yeah, great question. Hope that answered it.
And that's a real scenario that we meet all the time. Our offices often go down, but people are still able to access any local resources, which is great.
Yeah. Question here from Alexandru asking about, can you have a mixed Meraki and a non-Meraki site VPN environment? Yes, absolutely you can. That's certainly able to be done. And actually, it's raised a good point about Site VPN. Duncan, I don't know if you guys do any Site VPN using the
We
MX.
do. That was the main reason we bought Meraki in the first place,
Aha,
actually. We
let's take
just
a look at
ended up
that.
finding lots of other things, yeah.
Which one would be good to demonstrate the Site VPN on?
I think if you go to ICH GBR appliance, that's our headquarters VPN device. Yeah, that's the first one there, yeah.
So security appliance, Site VPN. So if we start from kind of ground zero, so imagine that you, the first time you're coming into this, you'd probably see the menu as disabled.
That's right, yeah.
In terms of actually it'd be good to hear about. I'm sure you've configured Site VPN using traditional means. And that if you wouldn't mind just giving a very brief summary of the sorts of things that you would have had to do in the olden days.
Well, I mean, in the past, we would have needed to know the fixed IP addresses for all of our remote sites, and in many locations, we work with ISPs that won't give us a fixed IP. So it was very much a local central office connecting out to remote offices.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the other way around, and configuring it was a bit of a headache. We had quite a lot of problems with IKE handshakes happening in a few locations, and then just to see how easy it was in Meraki was quite a strong selling point for us. So I think, Imran, if you just show people sort of what they get when they
So
first...
I think you guys had some more unique challenges in the kind of traditional approaches to kind of ISPs not giving you the IP, but in terms of actually setting up Site VPN using Cisco Meraki, hardware-wise, you need at least 2 Cisco Meraki MX security appliances, one at each location, and then this is how simple it can be. So all you need to do is come into this menu and decide what mode you would like your Site VPN, either split tunnel or full tunnel. And if we say, for example, it's split tunnel, I can select that, and literally that's all you need to do. Everything else automatically configures itself. There's no pages of command lines to go through to set up various parameters, any one of which you get slightly wrong, you have to go back to square one. Everything is automatically configured. You can then choose which local networks you'd like to have available for use on the VPN, but really that's it. Everything else automatically configures itself. There really is nothing else that needs to be done. And I don't know about you, Duncan, but whenever I actually tell people about this and demonstrate this, and they quite rightly don't believe me. They think it's a little bit too simple to be true. I don't know whether you found that the first time you heard about this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if this enables you to set up a fully meshed network without having to configure each and every device separately. So you're not having to enter all the details onto all the devices. It's all done through this central interface.
So the topology is default set to connect directly to all VPN, so creating that mesh VPN that you're talking about. But if you did want the more traditional hub and spoke, that is available there as well. You can configure that to your own settings.
And I think the question was about third-party VPNs. I think further down that page there is an option to add third-party peers, which we may end up using because we have some devices, we have some services hosted in Azure, and we're hoping that we can VPN them in at the Meraki level.
Yeah. So this is where you would do it. Name, public IP. I mean, it's not as straightforward as simple click with Meraki hardware, but there is a simple way to do it. Yeah, good question. Let's take a look at some of the others. Got a question from Amric, hopefully I pronounced that correctly again, asking if guest Wi-Fi can be set up in such a way that access is requested via email approval process. So there's various different ways to set up guest access. There's splash page. In fact, the splash page can actually be integrated into a third-party one as well if you wanted to really have a higher level of sophistication in terms of how you get guests onto there and maybe get some metrics as well. There is also what we call guest ambassador. So that essentially gives a light view of the dashboard to someone at the organization that may perhaps sits at reception, that can generate there and then a time-defined key for a guest. So that's related to email. So they would then have this emailed to them. They can access that, get onto the guest Wi-Fi, and it's applicable. It's essentially a voucher-based system, and then that voucher would be valid for whatever time that was set. So yeah, good question. So we are just about, well, we've gone quite a bit over time, so do appreciate everyone's time for sticking with us. I hope you found the session useful. Duncan, I don't know if you had any final thoughts before we wrap things up about the Meraki system that you've gone and deployed.
We've all fallen in love with it here, and my team around the world, they really like it. It's made things so much easier. So thank you.
Not our pleasure. Duncan, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure finding out more about your network, about yourself, and Christian Aid as an organization.
Love to share. Thank you so much.
No problem. As you do leave the door, everyone, there is a very short 2-question survey which just helps improve the quality and content of the webinars for future attendees, which would be very appreciative if you took a couple of seconds to answer. Other than that, for myself, Chris, and Duncan, thank you very much for attending today, and I hope you have a great remainder of the day. Thanks very much now. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.